defensively for the Knights. In the circle for the Knights, number 21, Chloe Persinger. Behind the plate, number 19, Maddie Christensen. Playing first base, number 22, Katie Crater. At second, number 20, DeKel Jones. At third, number 24, JC Shumway. The shortstop, number 10, Addie Webster. In left field, number 8, Ari Primack. Playing center, number 3, Chloe Nelson. And in right field this afternoon for the Knights, number 17.
Welcome back to Knights Broadcasting for the second game of this doubleheader between the Spirits of Salem College and your Southern Virginia University Knights. I'm joined alongside with Danny Ash, and the first game of this doubleheader, it feels like everything that could go right for Southern Virginia went right, including for pitcher Malia Davis.
Malia Davis had a beautiful showing. She had at least 5 strikeouts, and she actually 6 strikeouts, and she had a perfect game. What an excellent showing that she had. I mean, as a freshman in college, having a perfect game, it's absolutely incredible.
Just to be able to say that you had a perfect game in a college game like this, a conference game no less. And starting off pitching for Southern Virginia in this one is number 21, Chloe Persinger, junior on this roster. And so the final score of the first game ended up being 18-0 with Southern Virginia having a 13-run fourth inning. Absolutely fantastic offensive showing for Southern Virginia. And for Salem, of course, they're looking to bounce back, looking to see what they can correct from the first game. A swing and a miss there. So a strike thrown there by Persinger. Another swing and a miss. And of course, as I said, the score is 18-0. And the last one ended up being an early done game after 5 innings due to mercy rule. And a strikeout there for Persinger. So Persinger starting off very similarly to how Malia Davis started off in the first game. This is number 2, Kat Price, up to bat for the Spirits. She pitched on 2 different occasions for Salem in the previous game. She started off the game, then in for her came in, we had Sturzbach that came in for her, and then she came in later on when Sturzbach was struggling in that 4th inning. And that first batter for Salem, I failed to mention, was number 5, Madeline Brown.
Yeah, something that we're seeing from the Spirits is that they are willing to swing. And I say that, and then the girl takes. On an off-speed pitch by 21, Chloe Persinger.
And you're absolutely right. You know, they saw the last game went. They realized they kind of hesitated at the bat a little bit, and so they're coming out swinging this time around just to try to get some runners on base because, again, as I mentioned before, Malia Davis having the perfect game that she had, Salem didn't really have any chance to get things going as far as base runners is concerned. And so, of course, they want to change that narrative very quickly to start off this second game of the doubleheader.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a foul ball. They'll go behind the field. That one a little high, making that a 1-2 count.
Yeah, a little bit of sticky fingers right there from 21. Just held on a little too long.
That one also a little high, making it a 2-2 count.
We already see a shift in the strike zone, whereas the last umpire, home plate umpire, really liked those high pitches. This one isn't as willing to give it up. And same with that bottom outside corner.
Absolutely, that makes it a full count now.
sometimes it's difficult to be the pitcher following the act of a perfect game.
Now one low, and so the Spirits will have a runner on base. That'll be Price at first. Now up to bat for the Spirits is number 20, Savannah Atkins. And you're absolutely right. You know, it's on one hand, you're incredibly happy for your teammate that pitched so phenomenally in the first game, but at the second, you know, on the other hand, it's like, do I follow that up? How can I do that? And so it's really hard to not get into your own head a little bit, instead of just playing your style of softball.
Well, you know, oddly enough, you know, with having a batter on, some of that pressure is off. Now you can throw your game,
right?
And you know, you don't have to. It's so hard to work for perfection instead of just playing the normal game that you are used to throwing.
So that last pitch makes it an 0-1 count. That's popped up into left field. It'll be a foul ball. You know, we saw a lot of that in the first game of this doubleheader where Salem was able to make some contact with the ball, but most of the time it ended up being a foul ball off to the left side or the right side. They had a really hard time getting a solid swing in.
Yeah, and that can be, I mean, there are so many tiny factors that go into batting. It could be an issue of timing or placement of hands.
And that's hit into center left, brought down by number 3, Chloe Nelson. So that's 2 outs now. Runner still on first, now with number 35, Shelby LaPointe up to bat, the freshman from Liberty, North Carolina. That's hit into center once again. That's Chloe Nelson there for the snag. So 4 batters, 3 outs. Very quick work for Southern Virginia defensively, and at the end of the, or it's going to the bottom of the first. The score still stands 0 runs to 0. And Knights will have a chance to get back to business, as you should say. And then we'll start off with number 8, Ari Primack, who had a lot of success in the previous game, getting back home on several occasions, being one of the several Knights who had multiple runs in their 18-run outing in the first game.
Now my heart really has to go out to Shelby LaPointe, though, because that's a fantastic hard hit line drive straight to the center fielder. And it's always tough whenever, especially if your team is in a bit of a slump as far as being in a 10-game deficit right now, or a 10-game losing streak. And it's when you finally have that good contact, those really solid hits, they can feel so good, but it just feels like nothing is going your way. And so it's tough. It's a tough spot to be in for Shelby LaPointe when she has such a good hard hit ball and then it just goes straight to someone.
And, you know, Danny, you and I were talking like in between these 2 games how a lot of times when you get on that losing streak, it's really hard to bring yourself out of it mentally. You know, you can put in all this work, but at the same time your mind starts to doubt, is it going to work out? Is it going to change things for us? And, you know, if you're in the situation of Salem, you have to, you know, trust in your coaches, trust in each other, and just understand that, hey, maybe things aren't looking good for us now, but put in the work, it does add up. Even if it ends up being a long-term solution rather than something that fixes it right away, it's always going to, hard work and trying to persevere through difficult situations is always going to turn out well for you, no matter who you are.
Right.
And so once again, it'll be Primack up to bat for Southern Virginia, with Shumway on deck.
Number 8, Ari Primack.
And pitching now for Salem is number 15, Katie Gerhardt.
You know, this is the first time that we have seen 15 Katie Gerhardt today, so she is nice and fresh.
Right. And that was the problem they ran into in the first game, is that they went through 2 pitchers, but they had one, then the second, then back to the first one. They really did not want to wear out their pitching lineup, as Primack will get to first. to get herself a single with Shumway up to bat.
24.
But like you said, you know, Gerhardt coming in here very fresh and possibly brings a new energy to the table for Salem as far as being in the circle is concerned. And that's exactly what you needed, you know, because again, I've pointed out before, you know, you and I both have pointed it out, you don't want to go through your pitchers too fast because that is a recipe for disaster in the sport of either baseball or softball.
And the best you can do as Katie Gerhardt is give your defense the opportunities to work around you. You know, she's working for her defense, and we got to see them work to support her. So making those plays, but you know, it's tough to say that even though, you know, 35 the shortstop bobbled, you know, if Primack, she's got speed. If she wouldn't have beat it out, even if it would have been a clean play. So those are always kind of tough calls to make.
Pitch a little low as Primack will make her way to second. And that makes it a 2-2 count. Solid swing there from Shumway and brought down by left fielder number 21, Malia Tate. As Primack will stay at second, that makes it 1 out now. And number 20, DeKell Jones up to bat.
That was a really beautiful effort put in by the left fielder there. That was a long way to run. That, I mean, from here it almost looked foul, but she really put in the speed to take away that hard hit line drive over there.
She absolutely did. And again, that's one of the underappreciated elements of the outfield. You know, you tend to think, oh, outfield, they stand out there, wait for the ball to come to them. No, there is a lot of room out there and a lot of ground to make up on any hit that goes into the outfield.
Absolutely. Usually your outfielders are kind of experts in cardio for that reason.
And try to make the play at first. And so Primack, due to that infield error, is going to make it home, make it a 1-run-0 score, with DeKell Jones making her way to second.
Number 16, Crystal Kemp.
And a lot of pitchers' worst nightmare coming up with the bat, number 16, Crystal Kemp.
So much power and consistency with Crystal Kemp. And her senior season, she's just had such a great show of it. And we see a great display of discipline there as she stays away from that high outside pitch that 15 is throwing.
So only 1 out here in the bottom of the first. Score now stands 1-0 in favor of the Knights. You know, you talk about following up a perfect game for a pitcher earlier when we were talking about Malia Davis as well as Chloe Persinger. Another thing too is offensively is concerned, you know, you follow up an inning where you scored 13 runs in the bottom of the fourth. Now it's like you're almost trying to match that again when really that's just a phenomenal inning that's really hard to replicate.
Yeah, but we see the Knights doing what they have consistently done all year, which is put the ball in play and good things will happen. And Crystal Kemp is going to take one off the calf and advance to first.
So now runners on first and second.
Now batting number 10.
And now we'll have number 10 at Addison Webster, junior from Gilbert, Arizona. And still 1 out. Going to have a meeting here in the infield with Salem. I believe this is assistant coach Ryan Carricker. During this short little break, I want to remind you you're watching this on Knights Broadcasting here on YouTube. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe, comment down below, let us know how we're doing, and be sure to click that notification bell. That way you get notified every single time we go live with Southern Virginia Athletics. Thank you so much for supporting Knights Broadcasting. So once again, this is Webster up to bat. It is currently a 1-0 count. that one a little to the outside, make it 2-0. And now if you're Salem and you're trying to bounce back after that first game going as one-sided as it did, you're really trying to avoid getting an early hole. You really want to avoid the situations that you might possibly have here in just a couple moments where you could potentially have bases loaded. And on deck, of course, is a batter we haven't seen so far today, number 19, Madison Kristen, who's a freshman from Hermiston, Oregon. But again, you just don't want to be in a situation where you have bases loaded, and the Knights have been very successful at getting runners in, as that one goes right down the middle, making it a 3-1 count.
It's fun to see head coach Tiffany Pendelson on the third base side kind of being quiet. Sometimes the games are really strategic and you're scraping out 1 run or 2 runs, so it's really important to, you know, be playing small ball with your bunt game. But today she is letting the girls have a day of it, hit away, gorgeous day, and you know, you have so many successful hitters, and we saw that happen in the last game with them having an 18-0 game. So she's not as... It's going to be a fair ball along the right side.
It was very close to being foul. We'll have 1-2 runners making home.
That's a stand-up triple for Addie Webster going opposite field. So as a right-handed hitter, taking it to the right side can be really challenging, but she beautifully placed hit, went all the way to the fence or right side of the field, and she was able to get a stand-up triple on that.
It was very hard from here to gauge whether or not it was still in the field of play, but it really treaded that line, and like you said, fantastic hit there from Webster. She makes her way to third, and now the score stands 3-0 in favor of the Knights at the bottom of the first. And like I mentioned before, now batting is number 19, Madison Christensen.
Now this is a batter that's seen a good amount of playing time, and while she doesn't boast the highest batting average, she still is pretty consistent at getting on base, getting, with a .310 on base percentage. But this is also a batter who, for having far fewer at-bats than, the rest of the lineup, she still brought in 5 girls.
Swing and a miss there for Christensen. Gerhardt here trying to get her first strikeout of the day, and trying to get the first strikeout for all 3 pitchers that have appeared for Salem so far. That'll be a foul ball. That makes the count 2-2.
We see the pitcher, number 15, Katie Gerhardt, take a deep breath, trying to keep it away from these really powerful SVU hitters.
That's going to be popped up near left field. And making her way home is Webster, making it a 4-0 score. So a sacrifice hit there for Christensen.
Now batting for the Knights, number 21, Chloe Persinger.
Now number 21, Chloe Persinger, who is pitching for Southern Virginia, will be at bat for the first time today. I'll be right down the middle for a strike. Hit right to first base, so that'll be 3 outs. So Salem College in a hole already, down 4-0 after 1 inning. Southern Virginia will look to continue their defensive dominance so far today. And we'll continue to see Persinger in the circle as she did a fantastic job closing out the top of the first. But during this break, I want to give a shout out to our athletic partners, Straws Drinks and Eats here in Buena Vista, Virginia. Danny, you and I were talking between the games that today is a very gorgeous day, a little bit warmer than maybe some people would like, but it could solve that problem. Nice cold drink from Straws Drinks and Eats. Be sure to go check it out here in Buena Vista, Virginia, whether you're visiting campus or visiting the Blue Ridge Mountains, whatever the case may be. get yourself a drink from Straws Drinks and Eats. You will not be disappointed. Thank you so much, Straws, for partnering with Southern Virginia Athletics. So we'll have number 9, Cree Bass, up to bat for Salem College. And Cree will look to try to change the tide for Salem, as the only person who's been able to get on base so far today was in the previous inning, number 2, Kat Price, sophomore from Charlotte, North Carolina. And again, you know, Danny, you and I were talking before the second game how this team has good base runners.
Right.
A lot of stolen bases, but the problem today is just the difficulty of getting on base against these pitchers for Southern Virginia. It's just been a real struggle for them.
Yeah, this is something that actually Southern Virginia used to struggle with in the past, was if they got a player, if they got a runner on, they couldn't really move her around or get her to score, because there was a lack of consistency in getting girls on base and moving around the bases from the rest of the lineup. And we seem to see that struggle a bit with the Salem Spirits and the season that they're having. If they can get somebody on base, they struggle to move her around. But there's still so much game left. It's only the second inning. And with already having a girl on base, we could see a very different game here. But Southern Virginia doing a great job of getting ahead early. But that doesn't mean that the Spirits can't battle back. But we would need to see them get something going and build a bit of momentum in the lineup.
An interesting thing we're seeing right now is that strike that was called just a moment ago was a little low to the inside. So instead of favoring that high top right corner, you're seeing the opposite sort of happen here. Throw to first. Quick out here for the Knights. Fantastic field work there by DeKel Jones.
Yeah, I don't think that Southern Virginia has had a single error today. Any of their defensive plays have been crisp, clean, and just taken care of quickly and efficiently. And I mean, that's what you practice for. So to see that happen, I mean, you don't get a perfect game without having a strong defense behind you. So, Malia Davis in the last game, yes, she had phenomenal strikeouts, but also a really great defense backing her up and helping her to secure that perfect game. And it's great to see the defense continuing to sit down and take care of those more routine plays.
Absolutely. Now number 6, Lauren Fisher, up to bat for the Spirits. And we pointed out at the beginning of the first game here today that it was a lot of patience we were seeing from the infielders. They'd get the ball hit towards them, they would collect it up, take their time, stand up, make sure they get accurate throw to first. Like you said, Danny, making those routine plays that you practice all the time, and there's just absolutely no panic in them right now, which is something you love to see, and you love to see more consistently throughout the year. And that's a foul ball towards first base.
I think that's something that comes with it being, middle of the season, as you have the maturity. Right. I don't know if that's the right word, but you've had some games under your belt. You've been able to settle down. You've had a bunch of home games, so the home game jitters are out. Now you can just settle down and play ball.
Another foul ball there. Makes it a 1-1 count. And I think you said this in the first game, Danny, that the middle of the season is really where you want to be hitting your stride. Like the first part of the season, it's kind of like an NFL preseason. You're kind of working out the kinks. You're figuring out what works for you, what doesn't. That's another foul ball off the right side. And the middle of the season is really where you want to understand who you are as a team. You understand your identity at this point, and you know what works for you. You know what things you need to look for statistically. You know what plays that you can make on a consistent basis. And so when you get to that point in the middle of the season, you know who you are. That's a huge strength. Absolutely.
And even stepping away from the stats of everything, I mean, you've worked out a lot of the kinks.
Right.
Like when you're playing on a field together, you build a very specific chemistry. If you're Addie Webster, you know the strengths and weaknesses of your third baseman. You know the spots that she's good at covering. If you need to cheat over a little bit more because that's one of her weak spots. So, there's so many tiny points where you figure these things out throughout the season. And it just makes playing the game so much easier because it's not something that you have to think about anymore. It just becomes more of that muscle memory, and it just makes the game so fun to play. And a successful team is a fun team.
Oh, it absolutely is. You know, that's when you're having the most fun, when you have confidence in each other. And as a coach, when you have confidence in your players, you know everybody's working hard. That's a swing and a miss there for number 19, Jocelyn Rogers, freshman from Smithfield, Virginia. And again, when you're succeeding, you're having fun. Because, again, you're seeing the hard work pay off, the hours in the gym, the hours in the batting cages, the hours throwing the ball back and forth to your teammates. Fielded at third base, throwing to first, another quick out for Southern Virginia. No runners getting on base for the Spirits in that one as we move to the bottom of the second. Score still standing 4-0 in favor of the Knights of Southern Virginia. And you know, like, we talk about the middle of the season as well. The middle of the season is usually when you start to get a lot of your conference games.
Yeah. When
you see the chunk of your conference matchups that help you to elevate your standings in this particular circumstance, the USA South Conference, you know, that's, if you're hitting your stride at that point, that bodes so well for you in postseason. Gets you in a better position in the tournament, and which helps you to possibly better positioning, hopefully, if everything goes well for you going into nationals, right?
Right.
And so, again, when you're hitting your stride here, I can go on and on about the benefits of hitting your stride in the middle of the season, but I feel like they'll just bore everybody because I feel like everybody knows that, but you can't stress it enough.
Yeah, and I've been able to have some conversations with SVU seniors, and the way that the conference tournament has kind of played out is depending on how far they do or don't go, some of the girls are like, I'm going to miss graduation because I want to play my last game of softball. So just kind of fun how that's all, or funny, I'm not sure if it's necessarily fun, funny how that all has worked out, and the girls are so willing to, you know, I don't want to walk at graduation. I'd rather be out on the ball field playing
I'm sure
a game.
It's fun for the athletes, not necessarily fun for the parents.
Sure. Yeah.
Now number 22, Katie Clater up to bat, and Katie had a fantastic game in the first game of this doubleheader. I mean, she was absolutely dominant. That first pitch goes by. That one a little high. Make it a 2-0 count. You know, we talk about how SVU had a lot of things go right from them in the first game. It was the same thing for Katie. It seemed like everything went her way. She was able to do exactly what she wanted. Her and Malia Davis were, Malia was a defensive highlight, and then Clater was the offensive highlight for Southern Virginia. That one also a little high. And so she will walk to first.
Yeah, it seems that Salem is wanting to keep it out of the strike zone for her.
Which, again, considering how the first game went, you can absolutely understand why. I imagine that was more than likely an intentional decision to do that.
Much rather keep her on first than rounding the bases like she did twice in the last game.
And now we'll have number 3, Chloe Nelson, up to bat. Hits it, rolls into the outfield, and Clater will make her way to third. Now,
bit of a pickle situation, but
safe at first is Nelson, able to dive at the last second towards first base.
Now at the plate, number
8, Ari Primack, now to the top of the batting order once again for Southern Virginia. The Knights now in scoring position once again. That one right down the middle. Nelson making way to second, and thanks to the overthrow, easy run scored there for Katie Clater. So even though she wasn't allowed to get a good pitch to swing at, she's still able to make her way home, score another run today, make it 5-0.
I'm hesitant to say that that was an overthrow, and I mean, it was a beautifully placed throw.
Unfortunate situation there.
Bounced off the glove of the third baseman. Shortstop managed to get a hold of it and thought about throwing it to the third baseman to get the tag out, but in doing so, lost the opportunity to get it out at one.
Well, the unfortunate thing for her is that the third baseman wasn't close enough to throw it to her before Nelson would be able to get to third.
It's a tough position because the third baseman did try to go for the ball, so she was away from the base and then just couldn't get back in time.
So now up to bat is number 24, JC Shumway.
With quite a few things occurring, the score is up to 5-0 now.
Primack makes her way to second. They try to throw out Nelson at third, but she is safe. So now the Knights in an even better situation. Still 0 outs here in the bottom of the second. That one a little to the outside. Makes it a 2-1 count. We've seen the Knights stack up the bases a number of times in this doubleheader so far, including multiple occasions in the 4th inning of the previous game. So we'll see if the Knights are able to do the same thing here, as that is now 3 balls to 1 strike.
Yeah, Shumway again has just been such a consistent hitter for the Knights this year. She's had an awesome, is she a sophomore?
And that's a solid hit into outfield, but a good catch for number 9, Cree Bash. She's been one of the consistent outfielders so far today. Another run, though, scored that time by Chloe Nelson.
Number 9 has, Cree Bass has done a great job of taking care of those hard hit balls that go to the warning track, showing that she knows how to play her position to the best of her ability. She's done a great job of taking away a lot of stuff, getting balls on the run, having those football catches over the shoulder, as you've called them.
And that one will be right down the middle. And to answer your previous question, indeed, Shumway is a sophomore this year. So like you said, a young player like she is, being as consistent as she has been, is a very much something that'll put a smile on coaches' faces. It's a foul ball that time. And this is number 20, Dekel Jones, up to bat, with Primack at second. And the score now standing 6 runs to 0 in favor of Southern Virginia. Only 1 out, so there is an out to give.
Love to hear the supporting chatter from the defense as they back up their pitcher.
Solid hit there for Jones as it sails towards the fence, just short of a home run. Primack is going to make her way towards home, and she will score, making it 7 runs to 0, so another RBI today for Dekel Jones. But like you were saying, you know, we were talking about the mentality of going through a rough patch in the season as far as the Spirits is concerned. To hear the continued support from teammates. As a coach, if you're going through a rough time, that's all you can ask for, is make sure your players stay together, stay supportive of each other. Because that's the only way that you break out of slumps. That's the only way that you get out of situations where things aren't going your way. You stick together. And so we'll have number 16, Crystal Kemp, up to bat. She has Dekel Jones at second.
I believe last at bat, Crystal Kemp was hit by a pitch, so she's probably eager to see something that she can take a whack at.
That one just a little out of reach, making it a 3-0 count.
Love to see the discipline that so many of these batters exhibit in knowing their strike zone, knowing what they want to take and what they don't.
That one an inside strike.
We have seen that he likes those middle to low side inside pitches. He's a big fan of those.
That's how it makes it a 3-1 count.
So that's great positioning by Katie Gerhardt.
Solid swing there for Kemp. DeKel Jones rounding towards home, and she will score, making it 8 runs to 0. So back-to-back 4-run innings for the Knights of Southern Virginia. Another RBI today for Crystal Kemp. Now number 10, Addison Webster, up to bat.
Webster had a stand-up triple down the right side last at-bat.
And hit 2 runs in.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see if she's able to duplicate that success at this at-bat.
Great work by the catcher. Blocking is so difficult, but she really did a great job putting her body in front of the ball.
So now only 1 runner on base for Southern Virginia, that being Kemp at first. That pitch a little high to the outside from Gerhardt. That one right down the middle for Gerhardt. That'll be a foul ball.
It seems like at this at-bat, along with the at-bat that she had previously, Addie is wanting to take it to the right side of the field.
Mishandled, and out at second will be Kemp. So even though they weren't able to get their hands on the ball that quickly, they're still able to get Kemp out at second.
Unfortunate series of events for the Knights, but quite fortunate for Salem. Bounces off the foot and glove of the second baseman, but shortstop able to get a handle on it and get the force out at 2.
So now that makes 2 outs here in the bottom of the second. Now with Christensen up to bat. Then you have Webster at first. Foul ball. Christensen already has 1 RBI here in today's game, or I guess in the second game of the doubleheader. Another foul ball. That makes it a 1-2 count. And strikeout. The first strikeout for any pitcher for the Spirits today. That's got to be a good feeling for Gerhardt.
Absolutely. That's a great way to shut down this Knights offense and a great way to boost morale on your team, get you out of that inning.
Now we go to the top of the third with the score standing 8 runs to 0 in favor of the Knights of Southern Virginia. Once again, want to remind you, you're watching this on Knights Broadcasting here on YouTube. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe, comment down below, let us know how we're doing, and be sure to click that notification bell. That way you get notified every single time we go live with Southern Virginia Athletics. Thank you so much for supporting Knights Broadcasting. So now Southern Virginia, again, they've had a fantastic outing defensively. We saw Malia Davis pitch a perfect game last game, and we've seen Persinger have a lot of success. The Knights have only allowed 1 person to be on base so far in the first 2 innings. Looking to continue that here as we have number 21, Malia Tate, freshman from Lexington, North Carolina, up to bat.
We have seen the Knights be able to pull off both sides of the game. We've seen excellent offensive work and then the defensive work to match, holding the Spirits to scoreless games, which that's, I mean, awesome. It's awesome for the Knights.
I mean, as far as coaching defense is concerned in any sport, if you're able to limit your opponent to 0 points, I mean, that's a good day. That's a fantastic day. So like you said, if they can keep up that effort, they can make a pretty quick game of this second game of the doubleheader as well.
Leading off the inning for the Spirits, number 21, Malia
Tate up to bat. We mentioned her in her 4'11" frame makes the strike zone very, very small. Malia Davis was able to handle that just fine in the previous game, but we'll get to see how Chloe Persinger is able to handle it. That'll be a strike. And the first infield error for Southern Virginia has Tate advancing to second and slides in safe. A little bit of contact there between Malia Davis and DeKel Jones at second. Was able to get back up.
15,
she had a brief issue in the outfield in the previous game. So she's took quite a beating so far today.
Yeah, poor kid. But you
Showing
gotta be
her
tough to
toughness.
play this game, yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely do.
Same thoughts, yeah.
And Tate will advance to third.
Man, Tate's got a lot of speed.
She was at third in a heartbeat.
We haven't been able to see much of what the Spirit's offense is capable of, but now we see where some of those stolen bases are coming from with that lightning quick speed from 21, Malia Tate. And if she had any kind of injury or latent pain from the collision in the first game, she is showing no signs of it, which is awesome.
So now all of a sudden the Spirits find themselves in scoring position here in the top of the third. A situation they have not had up until this point today. That one a little bit high from Persinger.
Yeah. From the first game would have given that to her, no problem, but gotta work your umpires and your zones.
And we've talked about how that's just the fascinating thing about sports in general, is how different umpires and different referees call games, and how that is a factor in the game as well. It's one thing to have all these different strategical things you can do when you're talking about baseball or softball, batting, where to hit it, where your best positions defensively are. It's another thing for that human aspect of it to come into there and then add a whole other level of the game. That'll be a foul ball there for Gearhart. This is number 15, Katie Gearhart, up to bat.
Yeah, with no outs and a runner on third, if you're the Spirits offense, you're looking for sacrifice fly, anything to move this runner.
As the count now stands 2-2. And a strikeout, but it's dropped. And safe at home is Malia Tate as the Spirits get their first run scored today, make it 8-1. They were able to get the out at first, so they're able to get one, but you mentioned that speed for Tate made it very hard to get the ball back to home plate in time to tag her out. Right.
And you know, it's a bit disappointing right now to see that the things that are happening with Southern Virginia, Southern Virginia is committing a lot of errors right now, and the Spirits are doing a great job of jumping on that and attacking.
And that one run that Salem has scored was a result of the error throwing it to first base when Tate was making her way there.
Yep. And then a missed pitch advanced her.
Right.
And then a dropped third strike. You know, they still got the out, but I mean, so much speed from Malia Tate. They couldn't get her. They didn't have a chance. So really excellent job of capitalizing on errors by the Spirits offense.
A little bit of a high pitch there from Persinger, as this is now number 5, Madeline Brown, junior from Augusta, Georgia, up to bat.
It's also shown that the Knights defense can't get complacent. They need to make those plays, otherwise.
So a single that time for Brown, as it was perfectly placed right between the third baseman and the shortstop. So now you got another runner on base for the Spirits.
Number 2, Kat Price.
This is number 2, Kat Price, who pitched a large amount of the previous game.
you know, we feel a bit of a momentum shift here as
looking to make the double play. Safe at first is Price. Very, very close call. But you love the setup from Southern Virginia.
20, Savannah Atkins.
yeah, the worst you can do is try.
Right.
And, you know, they executed that play as well as they could, but just a bit too fast. I mean, the Spirits are a bit too fast.
And again, we're finally able to see that advantage that Salem does have since they've been able to get some runners on base in the second game.
Yeah, Southern Virginia, you're going to want to keep those girls off the bases because if they're on base, you know that they're going to swing their way around.
Solid hit into left field. That'll be a foul ball, though. And this is number 20. That is Savannah Atkins up to bat. The only senior listed on the roster for the Spirits.
With her being a senior, I'm curious if she was on the team prior to it closing, the program closing down.
Popped up into left field. It might have enough power behind it.
That is going to hit the bleachers.
That'll be a home run for Salem College. Now all of a sudden, they're in business. That'll score 2 runs. Bring the score to 8 runs to 3.
Home run by number 20, Savannah Atkins.
A little bit of an infield meeting here for Southern Virginia. They, of course, were hoping to get a quick second game, but Salem, whatever conversation they had at the end of the first game, I'm sure rang very true to them. They wanted to make sure that they proved there's some things they could have done in that first game that they just weren't able to accomplish, and now they're showing us right now with a 3-run third inning. They're very capable of sticking around. Now with number 35, excuse me, Shelby LaPointe up to bat. Still 2 outs. That'll be a foul ball. And again, you're seeing more confidence in Salem's swings, making contact, especially that time with LaPointe.
I think something that sometimes we negate is that these players are in college softball for a reason.
Right.
They have the talent, they have the ability, and they're showing that they have the resilience. I mean, it is so tough to come from an 18-0 loss, but they're showing that they can stick with it, that they know this game, and that they can string some hits together, have some power, build some confidence, build some momentum, and that's really impressive.
Knights still holding on to a 5-run lead. Swing and a miss, make it a 0-2 count. 1-2 count, excuse me.
You know, something we've talked about before is how the Knights have been splitting a lot of their series where they've been going 1-1 on the road or 1-1 at home. And it would be really great to see the Knights do a full sweep at home, especially in a conference series.
I think you're exactly right, Danny, that, you know, given that back and forth, you want to show that, hey, in a situation where win-loss record-wise, we should take this series, you know, looking at it logistically, like it could be very easy for you to do that, to show that we can pull that together. Like you said, I think that just adds a whole lot of confidence to you, as that's a strikeout there for Persinger. And that's got to be helpful, too, for her, because, again, after giving up those 3 runs in that inning, getting back to basics and just getting that strikeout, I believe that was strikeout number 4 for her in this second game. Now Southern Virginia can get back at bat where they've had a lot of success so far. Of course, they had the 4th inning in the previous game, and then the first 2 innings of this one scoring 4 runs apiece. And I have a chance to respond to Salem College's resurgence.
Right. And Southern Virginia coaching staff, you know, some of the things that you're considering is, do you want this younger player, this pitcher, you know, Chloe Persinger, to continue getting some experience in a game where you've had a lot of offensive success? or do you put in one of your veteran pitchers, you know, Crystal Kemper, Ariana Primack, and let them kind of close out when it seems like they're seeing Persiger really well. They're starting to build some offensive momentum. And do you shut that down right away, or do you see what sort of resilience and bounce back, you know, Persiger can have? It'll be interesting to see if there's a pitching change from Southern Virginia's side after this inning.
I personally would kind of surprised. I wouldn't be fully shocked to see it, but I'd be a little surprised because, you know, we talked to Colby Kemp between games, how he said they do have a lot of really important games coming up in their schedule, and so they want to make sure they manage that situation as best as they can. So I'd imagine they will try to stick with Persinger as long as they possibly can. And if things start to go downward to where, let's say, Salem College starts to mount a significant comeback, then at that point I think you would put in someone like Crystal Camp, Ari Primack, as you mentioned. But I think unless it gets to that point, I think they'll try to stick it out with Persinger. And speaking of Persinger, she is up to bat right now with a 1-0 count. That one a little inside after the pitch from Gerhardt. And Garrett so far has 1 strikeout so far today. That one also inside, making it a 3-0 count. And I think after that inning, you can kind of see just a change in countenance for Salem College right now. You know, the first game, things weren't going well, especially after the 4th inning. There was an energy depletion that you just kind of feel. But after success at bat, you look at them now, and there's just an extra level of confidence and energy out there. That a little to the outside, so Persinger will walk to first. Now we'll have number 22, Katie Clater. Now, my question to you, Danny, is do you think they will intentionally, I think the first time they walked it was intentional.
I agree
do you think
with
they do that again?
I think that they're definitely going to try to keep it out of her wheelhouse, out of that inside. I could imagine them throwing a lot of high outside. I can't imagine, even though this umpire likes a lot of that low inside stuff, I can't imagine that they'd want to put it there.
Definitely don't want to risk it after the day that she had in the first game. She makes contact that time, though, for a foul ball. So the Knights have a runner on first, with Clater having a 1-1 count. Solid hit, and it'll roll into the outfield. Persinger will make her way to third, and we'll see Clater make her way to second. Now, wasn't exactly where she would have liked it to be, otherwise it'd be out of here. But they got it close enough to where Clater is able to make something work. So now we'll have number 3, Chloe Nelson, up to bat.
Still, though, not every pitch is going to be your perfect send it over the fence kind of pitch. So even being able to have really strong, great mechanics, you know, singles like that, I mean, it's still beautiful to see.
It absolutely is. Again, Nelson up to bat and 0 outs so far. And on deck will be back up to the top of the batting order will be Primack. Solid contact there, but that'll be a foul ball. So we could easily see another situation where there's either 2 runners on base or bases loaded with a batter coming up for Southern Virginia, whether it be Shumway or DeKel Jones. Because again, in the second game, Southern Virginia having batters on base aplenty has been very, very consistent. Whereas in the first game, I feel like you didn't see as many runners get on base or batters get on base, but you saw a couple of home runs, of course.
Yeah.
You saw that from Clater, and they had a couple other solid triples, doubles.
Yeah, a lot of extra base hits, you know, less of singles and more just deep line drives, allowing the girls to, you know, take second, take third.
And that was a sacrifice hit there for Nelson as the Knights get another run scored. And they advance Clater to third. And the runner who scored was number 21, Chloe Persinger. So that makes it 9 runs to 3. That pitch a little high from Gerhardt.
Number 8 showing good patience.
Primack has 1 hit so far.
Make it 2.
Solid hit down the third base line. And she is tagged out at second. I'm curious about the decision making to turn second, because that second baseman had the ball a good solid 2 seconds before Primack got there.
Well, sometimes you're going to get caught,
Right.
you know, but with how successful she's been in being aggressive, you know, sometimes you're going to overextend. But
I mean, it ended up being a sacrifice hit anyway, getting a couple of runs scored once again, I do believe, because you had Clater at third. A foul ball will be
ooh, into the dugout, and she manages to hang on to it.
for the third out. Like you said, fantastic play there. So we'll go to the top of the 4th inning. Again, fantastic work there recovering defensively for Salem College. And so now with the offensive momentum they're able to establish in that 3rd inning, will be interesting to see what they can do this time around against Persinger, who was able to close out the top of the 3rd with a strikeout. So there is that bonus there. But we'll see if Persinger starts to tighten it up and try to get a couple more strikeouts, or are we going to see more solid work at bat for Salem? That question will be answered here in the top of the 4th. During this break, I want to give another shout out to our athletic partners, Straws Drinks Needs here in Buena Vista, Virginia. I've mentioned before, my drink of choice when I go to Straws, Dr. Pepper, cherry, vanilla, lime with almond cream. It never fails for me, honestly. But if you want to go to Straws, go check it out. If you're in Buena Vista for any reason whatsoever, go check them out. Straws, thank you so much for your support of Southern Virginia athletics.
See, that's just wild to me. Call me old-fashioned, but what happened to, like, good old-fashioned just root beer? You know?
Hey, root beer is fantastic. I'm not going to lie. But if you can get extra flavors added to Dr. Pepper, including some cream, I'm not going to say no to that one.
Fair enough. To each their own.
Now we'll see what Salem can do. That one in that low strike zone area. Solid pitch there from Persinger. Solid swing. Easy throw out to first. So after the last inning, the Knights were struggling, making a couple of errors, which resulted in some solid plays for the Spirits. The Knights really buckled down with number 10, Addison Webster, getting a good fielding play there.
Yeah. And that was number 9, Cree Bass, the fantastic center fielder from the Spirits.
We've mentioned her several times, how consistent she has been in tracking down some of those very difficult catches that she has made, especially in that first game. For those just joining, score currently stands 10 runs to 3 in favor of the Knights of Southern Virginia. Right now, number 6, Lauren Fisher up to bat. Foul ball.
I believe this is number 6, Lauren Fisher, up to bat.
Indeed, it is the sophomore from Charlotte, North Carolina. That one a high ball from Persinger. That'd be a foul ball down the third base line. And I think another solid thing about that third inning for Salem is it's the first inning that they have outscored Southern Virginia in today's game. They outscored them 3-2, whereas in the previous 2 innings for Southern Virginia, they had scored 4 runs apiece.
Yeah.
That one's an inside ball.
Yeah, I think the third inning is the inning that we saw the Knights struggle the most, between errors and offense kind of overextending, maybe getting a bit too, like maybe a bit of overconfidence going on.
It's like the great Han Solo said, "Don't get cocky, kid." And of course, we haven't seen a whole lot of that from Southern Virginia, but just small glimpses where you can kind of maybe assume on some plays they didn't necessarily execute as best as they possibly could have or have in the past.
Right.
Strikeout for Persinger. Get a strikeout number 6.
Now batting number 19, Jocelyn Rogers.
Now we'll have number 19, Jocelyn Rogers, up to bat. One of the pitchers on their roster. She has not pitched yet today. Instead, she's been playing in the infield. That one a little high for Persinger, but had a lot of steam behind that one. You know, speaking of which, we had a chance to talk to assistant coach Colby Kent between games. We were talking about the speed that some of their pitchers can pitch, because again, we talked about Malia Davis in the previous game. She had one pitch that was blisteringly quick.
Right.
And, you know, Colby was telling us that all their pitchers, he feels like, have about the same level of speed to their pitches. He said, wouldn't be surprised if they can all pitch between, 57 to 60 miles an hour on a fastball on a good day.
Right.
Which, again, when we've talked about the depth of the pitchers for Southern Virginia as much as the day is long, but it's something that can't be overemphasized, especially, considering the fact that that is something that would really help your team go far.
Absolutely, and having a depth of pitching is also really good when you have a bunch of contests in a row,
Yes.
which is something that actually the Salem Spirits have been dealing with. Is they have had, I think this is their
Now batting number 21,
6th game on the road, so they have been, you hit that middle of the season and you have games consistently, and it can really wear you down, especially if you have a smaller pitching staff. I know that they have 4. But still, if you're using 2 pitchers per game, that's still, you're going through your pitchers, especially if you have a 6-game sort of, I just lost all the words, but.
Well, a 6-game run, like
Right.
you said, you work through them really quickly. But after that walk, they now have number 19, Jocelyn Rogers, on first base, and at bat right now is number 21, Malia Tate, who kick-started the scoring for Salem in the previous inning. We'll see if she's able to do so yet again.
She has certainly shown that she is a force to be reckoned with if she gets on base with that speed, but they're
Another
Okay.
error throwing to first for Southern Virginia, as now they have runners on third and second. And trying to throw it home to tag her out. And I believe that is Rogers still on the field. I believe they called her safe at home. Coaches are going to her side as we speak. Hopefully she is all right. Again, a lot of things going on in that play. The error throwing to first, then a very high throw to second.
Yeah, number 21 just managing to make it all the way around the bases. Or not quite, she's on third. But I believe Jocelyn Rogers is the one who is down and potentially injured at home plate at the moment.
Indeed, she is still on the field. Coaches from both sides are tending to her now.
You know, not many people think of softball as being a full contact collision sport, but you get some intense plays where you have a catcher in full gear with a helmet against someone going full speed.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the hardest contact plays you will ever see are either in baseball or in softball. And like you said, Danny, it's not something you tend to think about. You tend to think of football or rugby or even lacrosse. You know, you think of those sports, but
yeah. And especially with home plate collisions, I mean, you're running full speed against something that isn't moving, and you can get a lot of serious injuries with neck problems or back. Just hope that she's okay.
and that's one of those things too where, you know, it's during the game you have some things going in the direction they have injuries like this in your lineup as well. You know, you're kind of getting things going. You just scored another run to whittle down the lead of your opponent, and it looks like they'll be bringing out a stretcher for her. There was a similar situation like this in one of the football games. I believe it was the last home football game of the year for Southern Virginia, where a Southern Virginia fullback had a pretty significant injury, I believe sometime through the third quarter. There was a similar scene where, again, we don't know the nature of Jocelyn Rogers' injury at this point.
But we do have a trainer on the field now.
Right. But my main thing is that you see the camaraderie that people have on both sides in regards to this. You know, on one hand, yes, you are opponents, I guess by the very definition of the term, but at the same time, you're all athletes, you know, you're all students, you know, you're playing the sport that you love. And so anytime anyone goes down for any reason, it's something that you never want to see happen to either your teammates or the opposing team. Even in bitter rivalries too, you know, you'll have teams that sometimes you'll just despise because either you haven't beat them or whether it's just a lot of contention between them. You never want to see that. It's like the phrase, you never wish it on your worst enemy.
Right.
You know?
And when it comes down to it, we're all just people playing a sport that we love.
Right, absolutely.
And you don't want to see someone taken out.
So they're still working on her on home plate. They had moved a stretcher towards Southern Virginia's dugout. They have not brought it out as of yet. We're hoping that they won't need it. And it's one of those moments where all of a sudden everything kind of disappears from your mind. The situation that you were previously in defensively if you're SVU or offensively if you're on Salem.
Right. You shift into a single-minded focus of,
Absolutely.
is this girl going to be okay?
And again, we will try to keep you folks back at home updated as much as we possibly can. They were able to get off her helmet, which is a positive sign.
And another devastating aspect of this that we haven't talked about previously is the size of Salem's roster and
Right.
what a devastating loss it is if even one player goes down.
That was something that came to mind when number 21 Malia Tate went down in the outfield in the first game. You know, like you said, a very limited roster, as this is a program that's rebuilding itself after a couple years of not existing. And that's a thing too, is when you have a limited roster, there's only so much you can do as far as your game plan strategy is concerned, and that's when all of a sudden great trainers, which I know that Salem and Southern Virginia have, become even more important, because it's more important to maintain players that are healthy, make sure that they can continue to perform to the best of their ability and not be put in any more risk of injury than they already are playing an intense sport like any sport you can think of at the collegiate level.
Right.
And with that, we will take a short break here, commentator-wise, until we're able to get this situation figured out. We will be right back. And we're back here on Knights Broadcasting. We saw number 19, Jocelyn Rogers, able to get up and walk into their dugout for Salem. That's very good to see after that long pause, to see her be able to walk off. She did walk off with some assistance, but the fact she was able to walk off the field, we're very, very glad to see that. I want to once again welcome you to Knights Broadcast in this presentation of Southern Virginia Athletics. The score, if you just tuned in, we had a long pause due to an injury on the field at home plate. It was Jocelyn Rogers who was diving in to score the 4th run for the Spirits. The score currently stands 10 runs to 4 in favor of Southern Virginia. So it looks like we'll be getting back to play here. There's a conversation happening here with the coaches for the Spirits. They, of course, will be making a lineup change due to the injury. But once again, I can't emphasize enough how glad we were to see Jocelyn Rogers able to walk off the field. They had to put some braces on her. We weren't able to see the full extent of the braces, so we're not going to speculate on her injury. But again, great to see her walk off the field regardless.
Now batting number 15, Katie Gearhart.
Now number 15, Katie Gearhart, junior from Richlands, North Carolina, will be up to bat. We will continue play here in the top of the 4th. The count is 1-2 with 2 outs. Actually, no, it'll be starting over the count since it's a new batter here, and we'll see Malia Tate steal home and get her 2nd run scored of the afternoon. And so now we'll continue to see Gearhart up to bat with the 0-1 count. Persinger, the pitcher for Southern Virginia, currently stands at 6 strikeouts. She has walked 2 batters. That one a low strike.
It can be so difficult to find the right balance coming off of an injury,
Right.
for both the offense and defense.
That's another strike, making it a 1-2 count. You're absolutely right. You know, when you have someone on the field, that's, especially if you're Salem, right? You have a player I'm assuming at least some of the players are maybe a roommate of hers at college, or people who hang out with her on a daily basis. You know, a good friend of yours is down the field for some time, as that's a foul ball. You know, how do you respond? And, you know, scoring a run right afterwards, I think, was a good way for them to kind of show some respect and honor to their teammate.
Right.
Say, hey, we're going to keep fighting for you.
It's a rallying point, something
Right.
to gather around. Yeah.
That one a little high, make it a 2-2 count. Again, the Knights just need to force 1 out or strike out 1 more batter to move to the bottom of the 4th. And unless the Knights have a fantastic 5th inning, it looks like we may not have a shortened 2nd game of this doubleheader. As for those who are recently tuning in, the 1st game ended with the Knights winning 18 runs to 0. It was a dominant performance from Southern Virginia. The 2nd game, Salem's really made things interesting, especially in the past 2 innings. And so we'll see Gearhart walk to first.
Now batting number 5.
Now we'll have number 5, Madeline Brown, junior from Augusta, Georgia, up to bat for the Spirits. And if you're Southern Virginia, you know, you kind of almost have to wake yourself back up, you know, because when you're sitting there waiting for the trainers and coaches to help Jocelyn Rogers off the field, you know, you could easily just kind of sit there and rest, and you kind of have to, again, both physically and mentally wake yourself back up and realize, hey, we're in the middle of the game. We got to get going back again.
Right, but Southern Virginia almost needed a reset, and hopefully this was that reset that they needed, because while the Spirits have done a great job of getting girls on base, it has been due to errors on
Right.
Southern Virginia's side.
You're absolutely correct. There were 2 errors thrown to first base and a fantastic hit into left field. And so they'll have runners on first and second. On second base, you have number 15, Katie Gerhardt. And then Brown on first. And now up to bat, number 2, Kat Price.
Something else to mention with that long pause is as the sun sets at Harvey Dryden Field, it adds another element of difficulty to this game.
Yes.
With being able to see the ball if you're facing westward, like the catcher's position, any one of the fielders on the infield trying to take a ball, get a throw from an outfielder gets really scary, because visibility is it becomes such a challenge with the sun being directly in your eyes.
It absolutely is, and even for the batter as well. That's hit and out at first. So way to close out for Southern Virginia as they go into the bottom of the 4th, still leading 10 runs to 5. And so Southern Virginia, the previous inning, they only scored 2 runs compared to Salem's 3. And in the 4th inning, Salem has scored 2 runs. And we mentioned the first 2 innings how Southern Virginia dominated at 4 runs to 0, then 4 runs to 0 once again. And so again, if Southern Virginia wants to make this a quick game, they need to have a really dominant bottom of the 4th and have a shutout in the top of the 5th.
Right, we would be looking at least 3 runs from Southern Virginia if they want to have the mercy rule come into effect, and they would also have to hold the Spirits in the 5th.
Which the past 2 innings, it's been a little more difficult for Southern Virginia compared to the first game. So during this short break, I want to remind you, you're watching this on Knights Broadcasting here on YouTube. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe, comment down below, let us know how we're doing, and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on future presentations of Southern Virginia athletics. Thank you so much for supporting Knights Broadcasting. And we'll try to keep you guys updated on Justin Rogers' condition as we possibly can. We can see her now outside the Spirits dugout. She's being attended to by both coaches and trainers for both Salem and Southern Virginia. But again, the fact that she's able to walk off the field, she's sitting off to the side now. We're just glad to see that no additional care was needed, at least from where we can tell. So now up to bat for Southern Virginia is number 20, Dekel Jones. That pitch was right down the middle from Katie Gerhardt. That strike makes it a 0-1 count. That one a little too high, make it a 1-1 count. Solid swing there. That'll get her on to first. And she will actually get to second as well. And thanks to the error in the field, she was tempted to go to third, but stays at second. Now with number 16, Crystal Kemp up to bat.
Number 16, Crystal Kemp.
Kemp has 1 RBI in this second game. We haven't seen as much out of her as we've seen in previous games. And I think a lot of that's intentional. You know, a lot of these conference opponents, they recognize, hey, Kemp's got a powerful swing and she can easily change the course of any game with any at-bat. So you got to be really careful when you're pitching in her direction.
We have seen these conference pitchers be really hesitant to give her anything that's even close to her wheelhouse, because she will absolutely punish you for it. And so we've seen a lot of walks. We've seen her need to be really disciplined, really picky about what she is going to swing at, because she might only get 1 or 2 strikes per at bat because they want to keep it away from her. What a great reputation to have as a hitter, you know?
That's probably the thing you want most as a batter, is to not necessarily be feared, but I will use the word be feared by opposing defenses. I feel like the best word that I can say. That doesn't necessarily convey exactly what I mean, but it paints the picture well enough.
She's certainly respected.
That's a better word, I believe, absolutely. That last pitch makes it a 2-1 count as you have DeKel Jones at third. Solid swing there from Kemp. That's a foul ball, though.
You know, something we don't see from Kemp is like a hit that isn't solid. You know, whether it's a line drive or over the fence or on the ground, it is solid contact 9 times out of 10. So even if you know, this is the picture that the stats don't portray, is how often they are just smacked.
That's a foul ball, but it is dropped. Fortunately for Kemp.
This is where the home field advantage, I think we're really going to see it come into play here as the Spirits defense is struggling with the sun.
And that was number 5, first baseman Madeline Brown, who dropped that foul ball. It was right in her glove, but I think she looked up to try to make a play at third base, and that swing from Kemp, that's out of here. So a 2-run homer for Crystal Kemp. We talked about the reputation she has as a batter. That's exactly why, and honestly, as a commentator, I want to personally thank her for proving our point, proving us right. That brings the score to 12 runs to 5. Just one more point away from the necessary points to possibly get the mercy rule if they shut out Salem at the top of the 5th. And still no outs. And honestly, that home run just, it didn't look like she swung very hard.
Effortless. With Crystal Kemp, it is, yes, there is a power dynamic, but also you were just seeing beautiful mechanics at play.
Right.
This is a swing that has really reached its perfection, I want to say. And when you have a swing that's as consistent, all the pieces coming together, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get home runs time and time again.
Number 10, Addison Webster, hitting it towards second base. She's safe at first in the nick of time.
Well, it looks like the first baseman popped off the bag in order to get the higher throw.
I believe you're right. And you know, Danny, you mentioned mechanics. You look at a lot of the most prolific batters, both in baseball and in softball. They're not necessarily the strongest players either. I mean, sometimes muscle definitely helps for sure. But a lot of it does come down to those mechanics. How do you swing the bat? How do you utilize the power of the bat itself to your advantage and not necessarily try to destroy your arms and shoulders, trying to put as much power as you can into it. It's all about that discipline and mechanics and muscle memory, really.
Well, it's about using physics to the best of your ability, because if you look at the way the human body is built, masculine figures, you're going to have more upper body strength. But as a female, you know, a lot of our power is in our core and our legs.
Yes.
So how do you utilize that to the best of your ability? So many softball players have such strong core between, like, you know, if you're thinking about the trunk with quads and thighs and your core muscles, that's where, as a female, your power is going to come from. And so how do you have a swing that utilizes that power? And
that play ends up with number 10, Addison Webster, out at second. Fantastic play there from the Spirits, but they were not able to get Persinger out at first. So now that makes 2 outs with number 22, Katie Clater, up to bat.
Katie Clater is another one of those where she has this sort of effortless swing.
And safe at first is Persinger.
Barely getting back.
And you love
seeing a little boogie.
Absolutely. You love seeing more of the aggressive mentality for the Spirits defensively in this game. Taking more risks, you know, throwing it to first. We didn't see any of that in the first game.
Right. They're doing a great job of keeping the Knights in check.
Right. So the last pitch makes it a 1-1 count.
And also we've seen with Ariana Primek where they throw her out when she tries to go for something that's a bit out of reach. So these are girls who are still smart. They know how to make plays, and they know how to eliminate those chances that is that another
Clater's
homer?
got another home run in today's game. That's going to be a 2-run homer. That's 3. And another RBI. I mean, talk about a day for a softball player. You know, Danny, as a former player yourself, you think of games like this, they're ones that stick in your head for a long time. You know, you're at the dinner table Thanksgiving Day, you're bragging about the day, hey, I had 3 home runs this one day. People are like, can this person talk about anything else? Like, no, because I have the rights. I hit 3 home runs in a day.
Yeah. You know, I think I played close to 12 years of softball. I don't think I ever had a 3-run home run day. So this is one for the books. That is, wow. Great job by Katie Clater. You know, we talked a bit with Colby Kemp between games, and we talked about different players and their strengths. And today we have seen kind of the peak of Katie Clater's strengths when it comes to Salem Spirits and their pitching.
Absolutely. Now with number 3, Chloe Nelson up to bat for Southern Virginia. You know, it's been fascinating this year with softball and baseball for Southern Virginia. I've witnessed incredible performances for Southern Virginia baseball. There was a player, I believe, a month and a half back, as that's hit into the outfield. That'll be a single for Nelson. There was a player for SVU baseball I think a month and a half or 2 months ago, who had 2 home runs in a single inning. And to have a game also like this, or 2 games like this with Katie Clater having 3 home runs. You know, with SVU, baseball and softball, I feel like we've been spoiled this year. It's been absolutely fantastic to watch and to follow along with right down the middle from Gerhardt.
And again, we have Ariana Primack up to bat.
Indeed, we do. There's 2 outs, and that last pitch was a strike, and the score now stands 14 runs to 5. Solid hit from Primack into the outfield. Nelson's going to round 3. She's going to try and make it home. And she will. Makes it 15 to 5. Fantastic contact there from Primack.
Now batting for the Knights,
Now we'll have number 24, JC Shumway. And the Knights now have scored 5 runs in this 4th inning. So the 4th inning has really been their friend in today's games. I mean, the 4th inning in the first game, they scored 13 runs. So far in this one, they've scored 5. It's been really fun to see, especially if you're a fan of Southern Virginia athletics and Southern Virginia softball specifically. And I believe there's going to be a change in the lineup here. Umpires meeting with head coach Tiffany Pendleton.
Look like it's going to be number 5.
That is
Chloe
Cochran, sophomore from Colville, Washington. She will take the place of JC Shumway. Shumway had 1 RBI in today's game. And this is Cochran's first at-bat. That one dipped a little low. That one dipped to the bottom right corner. And right now you have Primack at second. We have foul ball to make it a 2-1 count. Indeed, it was a fantastic swing. That's a frustrating thing too as a baseball or softball player, when you feel like you have a fantastic swing and it just kind of softly dings off your bat and goes behind you.
Yeah.
That went a little high, make it a 3-1 count.
Yeah, softball and baseball are both games of inches, where, you know, your bat is a 1/4 of an inch too low. You know, you're going to foul. It's the difference between a foul and a line drive.
Fantastic pitch there from Gerhardt, makes it a full count. And a strikeout. That is out number 3 as we move to the top of the 5th. Southern Virginia, all they have to do is make sure they maintain an 8-point lead going to the bottom of the 5th, and then the game is over. But of course, the past couple of innings, that's been a tall order to ask, because Salem has really done a great job. You know, in the top of the 3rd, they scored 3 runs. Top of the 4th, they scored 2. So we'll see if they keep, it looks like they will keep number 21, Chloe Persinger, in the circle.
Well, she's been doing a great job. I
She
think it
absolutely
should be
has.
noted that that she has been really successful. What's kind of been lacking in this game is the defensive crispness that we saw in the first game. So if Southern Virginia wants to put away this game, we're going to need to see them keep a tight, clean defense.
And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, all the infield errors that the Knights have made today have been in this second game. Like
They
you
have.
said, it was just fantastic work in the infield in the first game, but this second one, we've had 2 overthrows to first base. We've had a poor throw to second that limited them from getting an out tag at second, excuse me. And so
we've seen it all the way around from
Yeah.
bad throws home first, second, as you were mentioning. So, and especially with having an injury already, Southern Virginia, something they're going to need to focus on, especially with the sun in the position that it's in. They need to keep those
Leading off
throws
the inning for the
low
Spirits, number 20,
and out
Savannah
of the
Atkins.
sun, so that they can, you know, give the person catching the ball the best chance, and so that no other injuries occur.
And here at bat, we have number 20, Savannah Atkins. And so, you know, if you're a coach at Southern Virginia in their dugout,
It's going to be a fair ball bouncing right off of third base. A hot shot that 24 JC Shumway just couldn't get a glove on.
Now
that's a
batting
difficult
number
one to field for
35.
sure, as Atkins quickly gets
Shelby
on
LaPointe.
first. And we'll see number 35, Shelby LaPointe, up to bat. But, you know, like the point I was going to make before that fantastic hit down third base line was, if you're a coach for Southern Virginia, you're telling your players, hey, I know we've made a couple errors in this second game. All we have to do is play one more solid inning.
Yeah.
If we want to close this out quickly, one more solid inning, and then we can go home. We can have 2 wins in a row against a conference opponent, both wins with a significant lead,
Right.
and you can feel really great about yourselves. Of course, if you're Salem, you're wanting this game to last a little longer. You want to tell yourself, like, hey, you know, the first game, nothing went our way. The second game, we've made some things happen. We've gotten runners on base. We've gotten runs scored. You know, we've made it interesting, at least at some points during this game. Let's keep this going and see what we can do. Foul ball there. Keeps it at an 0-2 count. And LaPointe has already been struck out so far. At least one time by Persinger, who has 6 strikeouts. Solid hit. Foul ball, nearly fielded pretty quickly there by JC Shumway. And the fact she was able to stop it in the first place, all the heat that was behind that one, is impressive.
Yeah. You know, that one stung her palm, though, because you could hear
Yes.
the ball hit the meat of her hand. Those ones sting. But great defensive work.
And swinging at that one.
Almost a panic swing.
Indeed, I believe it was veering more towards her. And that is something that's really hard not to do, is if it's come towards you, to kind of just panic, swing your arm around, and unintentionally swing the bat around. Keeps it at an 0-2 count. Fielded by Shumway. Out at second. Safe at first.
Southern Virginia doing a good job of taking away that lead run. Or lead
Now
runner.
batting number 9, Cree
So
Bass.
LaPointe will be at first with number 9, Cree Bass, up to bat. Like you said, making sure that Salem is not in a scoring situation. The fortunate thing for them is that although they didn't get the out at first, they didn't overthrow the first baseman.
Right.
That one just a little high. And I believe maybe a little to the inside, which, again, we've talked about some of the tendencies of some of these umpires. He's liked that in this second game. not so much that time. That one just a little bit low enough for him to like.
Yeah. Good adjustment by 21. Seeing that he doesn't like it quite that high, so she'll give him one that he does like.
That makes it a 1-1 count with 1 out here in the top of the 5th. Foul ball makes it a 1-2 count.
0-2 counts, even 1-2 counts are such a powerful position for a pitcher to be in because you have so much room to work. You know, work your zone, get her to swing at something that's maybe it wouldn't be a called strike, but, you know, enough to where as an aggressive batter you need to be defending the plate.
And the pitch goes past, that is Crystal Kemp. And so that'll advance Shelby LaPointe to second.
They have Crystal Kemp catching.
Pardon me, that's Kraylin Guyman catching. Actually, I believe I have to correct myself one more time. That is actually number 19, Madison Christensen. That is in at catcher. That is a foul ball. So it's now a full count. Seeing a good battle here between Persinger and Bass. And so Bass will go to first. Now runners on first and second for Salem.
It was a great battle on the part of Bass, just staying patient, knowing your zone, putting, you know, felling off the stuff that you don't like, waiting for something that you do, and, you know, she's going to win that contest between her and Persinger.
Now up to bat number 6, Lauren Fisher, sophomore from Charlotte, North Carolina. Fisher has been struck out once. Persinger gets it to first for the second out. But of course that allows runners to advance to second and third. And now up to bat is number 12, Allie Stretchbach. She pitched a significant amount of the first game today. So the Knights just need to get the easy play, 1 out, in order to close this one out. Foul ball. Make it an 0-1 count. This is Stretchbach's first at bat in this game. Another foul ball. Make it an 0-2 count. So Persinger definitely hoping to add a 7th strikeout to her stat line to close this one out.
You know, I gotta give it to the Spirits for...
And that will be, in fact, what happens. You know, they say commentator curse, I say phooey with that sometimes, but the Knights will take away this second game, 15 runs to 5. 2 straight mercy rule games for Southern Virginia. But I think what you're about to say, Danny, is that we saw such great fight from the Spirits in this second game that just was not present in the first.
Right, and especially after having like an injury and everything too. But they showed that they were an intelligent, powerful team that was capable, you know, they weren't showing that they were going to roll over. They were going to fight till the end, but that is going to boost Southern Virginia's overall record to 17-11 in conference. They're going to be 5-5 with their home series being 7-5. So that was huge for Southern Virginia, especially for never having beaten this team in the past before. Now they've gotten two wins under their belt, but really a great showing from both teams today.
Absolutely, like you mentioned, Southern Virginia continuing to move more into the winning side of the win-loss record. And again, like you said, confidence is everything. You know, we talk about sports. All sports are a mental game. And the more that you can build up confidence in yourself and trust in your teammates in games like this today, where in the first game you have a pitcher pitch a perfect game,
Right.
where you have a batter who hits 3 home runs in 2 games, things like that will help you down the way. As again, we mentioned this being the middle of the season, the more your confidence soars, the better off you are come towards conference tournament play. And you got to imagine Southern Virginia coaches very happy with what they saw today. But with that, we thank you so much for tuning into today's presentation of Southern Virginia Athletics here on Knights Broadcasting. On behalf of myself, Dawson Weidrich, and my friend here, Danny Ash, thank you so much. Have a great day. God bless, and go Knights.